He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this. Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
There are a lot of people that are like, no matter what side of politics you're on, you should never celebrate something bad happening to someone. I, on the other hand, do cheer when bad things happen to bad people.
Charlie Kirk just got shot. Oh,
well, this is quite the hot take.
The best part of this whole goddamn thing is that he is not martyr material, so his death will mean nothing. It will activate no one. It will impact few. It's just great.
Well, breaking fucking news, folks. Seems somebody just took a shot at one of the Fanta-Fascist's favorite 5-mile wide mouthpieces, Charles Chucklefuck Kirk.
I'm not saying she deserved it, but I'm saying God's timing is always right.
And goodness knows the wicked's lives are lonely.
When people stop talking, really bad stuff starts. When marriages stop talking, divorce happens. When civilizations stop talking, civil war ensues. When you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to want to commit violence against that group. What we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have reasonable disagreement where violence is not an option.
A few days ago, a friend of mine sent me a message I can only describe as despairing. In the wake of the Charlie Kirk murder, she watched as many of her real-life friends celebrated the public execution of a 31-year-old father of two for debating opinions and ideas on a university campus. She told me I was the only friend she had with whom she could freely discuss ideas without being terrified of making one wrong move and being disowned and condemned. Now, if any of you making some assumptions or jumping to conclusions, let me tell you some things about my friend. She's left-wing, lifelong been left-wing, considers herself a feminist, and she didn't even like Charlie Kirk. A week before he'd been killed, she'd even been complaining about him in very strong terms. But what she isn't is hateful. Or crazy. She doesn't believe that someone who expresses a different opinion to you should be shot in the neck in front of their family. Just think about that, because that's what happened. And if you hear that and you think that whatever happened to him sounds reasonable because of those opinions or ideas, I so don't care about whatever vile justification you're about to trot out as why that's okay, actually, because your moral compass is as twisted as you are, and as far as I'm concerned, you have nothing of value to say. You know that the people who celebrate the deaths of those who disagree with them politically are historically not the good guys. If you think someone deserves to be killed for saying things that you don't like, you are a joke if you ever call your opposition fascists as an insult again. Okay? Because that's just about as authoritarian and anti-freedom as you can get. You're the monster that you're so scared of. So, welcome back to the channel, everyone. As you can tell, today is a different type of video. I have had another video in the works for a while that's getting there, but because of everything that's transpired recently, and I've been so shocked by quite a lot of it, shocked but not surprised somehow, I have so much to say that I felt compelled to make this video. So, I have notes. This is not really scripted, so apologies, this is not, like I said, like my usual video. I hope I'm able to be as concise and clear as possible with my thoughts without them all being fully scripted and laid out, and I'm also travelling, and this is being filmed on my phone, so not in the usual location, and there's a fly there, so not in the usual location, and sorry if the quality isn't as great due to it being filmed on my phone, but I had some things to say that I felt compelled to say as soon as possible. So just to get some stuff out of the way first, I am not even going to spend any part of this video talking about all of the things that I disagreed with Charlie Kirk on, even though those things exist, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If people can't just condemn the death of someone without first having to disavow all of the things they disagreed with them on, do you understand the implication there? the precedence that that sets, that you can't condemn someone's murder without it first being assumed you're a supporter of everything they say, unless you first make it really clear. Like, I didn't like him, but guys, maybe we shouldn't murder him. No shit. No shit. When you say someone didn't deserve to die, you don't need to qualify it with all of the things that you didn't like about them or disagreed with them on. Okay? It's irrelevant. Whether you loved or hated their opinions, it has no bearing on the fact that he didn't deserve to die. So I disagree with the principle of that and the standard that it sets. It's totally ridiculous to assume that to condemn an unjust death means you have to agree with everything they said or did. That's fucking insane. So, some people are going after those who are condemning his death without also first mentioning that they didn't like him as a person. Hello? Excuse me? If you can't allow someone to condemn a public execution without first disavowing everything the victim said, check your head, because I don't think you're fit to live in a civilized society. Even if you hated his opinions, if you care about freedom and expression and anti-authoritarianism, like a lot of the people celebrating his death bloody well claim to, you should be condemning this with every part of your being. This is not how we deal with disagreements. This is not how we handle a man willing to have conversations with the other side, which he was. It's a fucking tragedy. This is a fucking tragedy. And it leads on to something else I want to talk about, which is why I'm making this video today. So what happened to Charlie is not so much the point of this video, even though hugely relevant, as I think how we got here and how we got to the place where people are celebrating or justifying what happened to him. And whether they're full out justifications, which some are, or like smug little comments that are like semi-justifications, kind of like, well, I'm not celebrating his death, but like he kind of asked for it. So whichever side of the spectrum of making allowances and seeing this as okay and not fucking horrific, whatever scale of that some people are on, whichever justifications or allowances are being made post his death are I think a lot of the same justifications and allowances that led to it. I don't think it takes a great leap to kind of assume that. And I think a big part of that is the idea that words are just as bad as violence. That words can be violence, that words are violence. And this is an idea that's been around for a while. And I have seen people saying that words can be violence under videos talking about Charlie Kirk, which no, they're not. At all. Words can lead to violence, sure, but they are not violence. Words are not violent, they're not violence, nor is silence. Silence is not violence either. What's violent is being shot in the fucking neck in front of your kids. So don't compare the two. Words can lead to violence, sure, I agree with that. They can lead to violence, but they are not violence. Charlie Kirk also did not advocate for violence. In fact, there are videos of him expressing the exact opposite, that he engages with the other side to avoid violence. He's stated that. I saw one comment talking in under a video condemning Charlie Kirk's death, talking about verbal violence, that verbal violence is a huge problem and it's a thing, and that words can cause psychological harm and fear. And sure, they can, yeah. They can cause psychological harm and fear. But do they cause as much fear as, being shot in the neck? Or as much psychological harm as, witnessing someone being shot in the neck? Or witnessing your father being shot in the neck when you're, how old was she? 3, 4? If you say yes, that words can cause as much fear and harm as watching someone being shot in the neck, you're a liar. And how I know you're a liar is if I ask you if you'd rather be shot in the neck or have someone scream hateful things at you, I know which one you're choosing. Don't fucking lie. Believing words are violence inevitably leads here. And again, I'm not saying words can't be harmful or you can't have bad words, or you can't, yeah, I've come across my fair share of them on the internet. You argue against them is what you do. You have conversations, you disprove them. That's how you handle words you don't like. There are plenty of words. Anyway, I think believing words are violence inevitably leads here. Inevitably it leads to places like this. Because an acceptable response to violence is violence. That's an appropriate response. If someone is attacking you violently, committing harm on you, or you need to defend yourself, it is appropriate, most people would agree, to you be violent back. So when you say words are violent, what you allow for then is if someone's saying things you don't like, you're allowed to be violent towards them because you've said that you've changed the rules and said that that's the same thing as actual violence, which is not. Everyone knows it's not. Even the people claiming it's violence actually don't really believe that because, again, if I said, hey, what do you want? Do you want to be punched in the face or do you want someone saying mean things to you? Again, we know what everyone's choosing. So I don't think anyone actually genuinely believes that. I think they say it because they think it sounds cool and trendy and it gives them an excuse to, I don't know, do horrible things to people they don't like what they're saying. But if you think that it was okay to kill Charlie Kirk because in your mind his words were causing physical harm, it would be stupid to think that you would be exempt from that logic in some way or another. And again, I want to make this super clear before I go on to use this argument. I am not condoning or believing any of the things I'm about to say, the arguments I'm about to make. But what I'm saying is the same logic could be applied to some of your beliefs. And I kind of want to explain why. So how about this? How about someone who's extremely pro-life? You have someone who's very pro-life. And what if you have pro-choice views? So what if you're pro-choice and this person is pro-life? And this pro-life person thinks that because you're pro-choice and you're talking about that and you're advocating for it, they really believe that means that you're doing actual real physical harm and they decide to take you out for it. Now, in your mind, of course, if you are pro-choice, you're going to be thinking, well, that's dumb. They're obviously wrong. That's so stupid. They're obviously wrong. Like, in their mind, they're not. How about you're not a vegetarian? How about we use that example? You're not a vegetarian. And someone else thinks that by you spreading a pro-meat eaters message, you're saying, oh, you know, I felt really healthy when I ate meat and, you know, it's really good for my health and all this. How about a vegetarian hears that and they think that you're then causing violence? In their worldview and in their mind, you are. And then it's justified to take you out. Again, I'm not saying they would be correct. I'm saying that you can apply that logic to multiple things. It just depends on your worldview and where you're coming from. And some of you might go, oh yeah, but the things that Charlie Kirk was advocating for, or whatever he believed, was actually way worse than whatever silly thing you're talking about with vegetarianism or pro-life or whatever. It doesn't, in these people's minds, it doesn't matter. And I think the only way you can overlook that is if you have the absolute arrogance that your worldview is the correct one, and it's only okay when you do it, and that you believe that you'll never in your life change your mind about anything, or that you could be wrong about something, about a topic. You can, you know, it's if you think by going down that route and applying that logic that it couldn't in some way be applied to you in one way or another, you're stupid. It could be. And again, I'm not justifying or enabling that at all. What I'm saying is you can justify it depending on your worldview. You can justify, oh, this person's causing harm because they said this. And this is why we've got to have, because unless you believe that you have the only objective worldview, the arrogance believe you'll never change your mind, you're not wrong on anything, you have the only objective worldview, and then when you do it, it's okay. When you do it to your opponents, it's okay. And then someone else couldn't come up with a reason why you're causing harm with your words, which is why there's got to be the standard that words are not violence. Opinions, sharing your opinions is not violence. You could have opinions that lots of people think are abhorrent and awful. Doesn't mean it's violence, though. You guess what you get to do? You get to contend their opinions. You get to argue with them. You get to point that out. What you don't get to do is harm them, because there could be another person around the corner who thinks that your opinions and views are as abhorrent as someone else thought yours were, for whatever reason, based on their worldview. Unless you think you've got the, which no one does. Everyone thinks they have the objective truth and worldview to the world. So it's just, it's why that, you can't have that. You can't have that standard. It's violence is violence, words are not violence. And you don't get to treat people who are saying words you don't like as if they're physically harming you. Because that's crazy. And people don't believe it, like I said. I don't think people really believe that anyway. But it's not. So words are not violence. People need to stop saying that they are, or acting like they are. Because again, you know what is violence? Having a bullet ripped through your neck in front of your 3-year-old daughter. That's pretty damn violent. It's not funny. It's not a game. And no, it isn't a proportionate reaction towards him saying some words that you thought were nasty. I don't care how much he hurt your feelings or whatever sob story you're going to trot out as a justification. I do not give a single flying fuck. I really don't care. If you're using that to be like, oh, well, yeah, but I'm glad he's dead because he said this thing that hurt my feelings. I so don't care now about your hurt feelings. Your hurt fucking feelings are nowhere on the same level as the actual violence that happened, that him and his family suffered. And if you can't see that, you're so delusional and self-centered that you're not in reality. I just think the people celebrating are either just evil or you don't actually comprehend like the bitter reality, the grounded. It's like a game. You think you're like children. That you don't get what the gravity of what's actually happened. This isn't a team win. What the hell is wrong with you? I think it's the hypocrisy that what gets me. I think so many of the same people celebrating, and there are lots of people celebrating, and they're not just fringe people. I think a lot of the people celebrating, if a left-wing icon, can you imagine, was gunned down while like expressing their opinions and ideas in a non-violent way, the same people celebrating would be going on about right-wing violence and extremism and nutcases with guns. It would be all about that. But also, people treating this like a team win. You do know you've made it more dangerous for outspoken people on your own side as well. You've made it more likely that they will be hurt. And also made it more likely that the other side will not listen to you when you cry about it because they will just point to Charlie Kirk. You're stupid if you celebrated this. You're so dumb if you celebrated this. And also you just lost the ability to condemn the other side if this then happens to someone you like. And you can see where the escalation can go from there. It's not a game. It's not funny. I think here's the other problem as well. When you say words of violence, you make conversation and open dialogue impossible. You lose hearts and minds. You lose the argument. There is a totalitarian implication in the statement that words are violence. There is. The implication is shut up. The implication is our violence against you for a different opinion is justified because we've decided that your opinions are violent. And when you do that, you stop convincing people. You only scare them into silence. And that doesn't necessarily mean they agree with you. And at some point you'll find that out. I think if you don't have confidence in arguing your beliefs, either you're stupid or you're wrong. And resorting to violence is an admission of that. That either you're too stupid to be able to explain your beliefs and argue them, and that's a you problem, or you're wrong and you can't do it. So use your words. Everyone's celebrating Kirk's death as a victory for the left. Not only is it despicable in and of itself, which it is, make no mistake, but you do realise that it just isn't a victory for the left. Charlie Kirk, say what you like about him, and I'm not saying anyone has to like him, but he was willing to have conversations with those he disagreed with. That was very clear. And in celebrating him being killed for that, you've put across the message loud and clear that people will be punished for that. Do you think that's going to make the right more or less willing to be reasonable and listen to what you have to say? And again, it's not just fringe people celebrating it. I've seen people say, some middle school teachers that been going viral for celebrating it. The head of the Oxford Union, the MSNBC host, whatever he was, I think he was actually fired after that, live on air as it was happened, and it was reported that he'd been, shot. What he had to say was, oh, well, hateful words, saying that Charlie Kirk said hateful things and that hateful words will lead to hateful actions, inevitably. Sorry, what was that? Are you saying if you say things that we don't like, you can expect to be like, I beg your pardon, mainstream media news organisation? Excuse me? This is not like just the odd fringe lunatic. What the hell is going on? Stephen King seemed to, I don't know if I'd say go as far as say he justified it, but he seemed to imply, in my opinion, that it maybe wasn't the worst thing ever, because he made a tweet saying something like that Charlie Kirk wanted to stone gay people, which he had to take back because it's not true. Charlie Kirk has never said that he wanted to stone gay people. He's never advocated for stoning gay people. So Stephen King had to apologise for that.
If they are supporting open homosexuality...
So, I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd
And
It is against God. That is
So let me
why.
ask
Are
you
you
a
a
question.
Christian or not?
do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No, do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
This isn't to suggest that Charlie Kirk supported gay marriage, because pretty sure he didn't. However, he very clearly never came anywhere near to suggesting stoning gay people. That's fucking insane. And if you have to lie about someone and create a caricature of what they said and believed to justify in your mind, you know, horrible things happening to them, then maybe you're the fucking asshole. But so what enters your mind that you, as a high-profile writer and allegedly intelligent man, without even fact-checking your public statement about someone who was recently politically killed, you tweet something out that you don't even know if it's true or not, and that it's not true, and you have to apologise for it. But why would you do that? Why would you... It seems like, in a subtle way, seem to condone it. Because, he believed this horrible thing. I'm sorry. And I want to talk about George Aberonier. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's at Oxford University. He became president-elect of the Debating Society. His comments that he posted in a WhatsApp group were leaked and, of course, spread like wildfire and went viral, where the messages apparently said, Charlie Kirk got shot, let's fucking go. And another message supposedly said, Charlie Kirk got shot, lol. To add more context to this, George met Charlie Kirk just a few months ago, before Charlie Kirk was killed. He debated him. It's one thing for people who never met him and didn't know him to celebrate, but you met the guy. You had a civil debate with him. You yourself are president-elect of a debating society, where the whole point of a debating society is to debate with people you disagree with, to debate ideas. And as head of a debating society, you celebrate the fact that people who you disagreed with get killed, because that makes sense. That's really consistent with your role. Excuse me? How fucked up do you have to... I just wonder how fucked up you have to be to celebrate, like, to meet someone in person and be like, yay. I'm thinking, I've gotten into online internet arguments with people before, about, like, several topics, like debates. There are a few people on both the left and the right that we've made videos on each other. Some that got quite nasty, you know? I never even met them in real life. But if I heard they'd been, like, killed because of their opinions, I wouldn't be celebrating. It's not... It's just not really okay, is it? And then, so I'm going to read what George said to the New Statesman when asked for comment about it, about what he said about Charlie Kirk. So he deleted the messages and apologised. But then this writer says, when I messaged him on Friday, he said he was disappointed by the response to his comments. George was disappointed by the response he got to his comments. Oh, George, were you? I bet Charlie Kirk was pretty fucking disappointed by the response he got to his comments, which had been shot in the neck. So, I don't know, who's getting the worst end of the deal on that? Sorry if I'm not hugely sympathetic, but let's continue. He's disappointed by the response to his comments. Quote, I've been troubled to see members of the media ignore my retraction and self-reflection, he wrote. Now we're going to go on to hear about George's outstanding self-reflection. Wow. It is right to call out the insensitivity of my initial reaction. But the irony is not lost on me that many of those now threatening violence and hurling abuse towards me and towards people who look like me have shown no interest in holding Charlie Kirk to the same standard when he mocked children killed by gun violence or excused the deaths of women and children abroad. My words were no less insensitive than his, arguably less so. The difference is that I had the humility to recognise when I strayed from my core values, and I addressed it immediately upon reflection. I am not perfect, but I am willing to reflect, to learn, and to remain true to my values. It is disheartening that those who hurl abuse at me are often the same who claim to value free speech and oppose cancel culture, yet apply those principles inconsistently. To demand accountability from some while excusing it in others is not justice. It is selective outrage that erodes the very values we claim to uphold. Oh, yeah, George, I don't know if I give a shit about inconsistent principles. You complaining and bitching about other people having inconsistent principles when, again, you're part of a debating society and you celebrated someone having different opinions than you getting shot. So, sorry, excuse me, pot, meat, kettle. But also, I don't know if Charlie Kirk's ever mocked children killed by gun violence. Now, I know he speaks about gun control a lot, whether you agree or disagree with him on his opinions on guns. Where did he mock children killed by gun violence? I would be shocked if there's anything to show Charlie Kirk mocking children killed by gun violence. Can you find that for me, George? This is in your apology about comments you made about him. I'm angry. I am. It's just, I'm angry by, he's coming out and getting all upset and pissy and bitching about the media not being fair to him now. Because he's self-reflected so much. He's self-reflected, but then he goes on. So he goes, but he's not really sorry, is he? Because in my opinion, because he's apologised. But then he's gone on to say, but Charlie Kirk said this, and this. So the implication there, George, despite your apology, is it a real apology? Because it seems to me that you're implying that, okay, I said that, but it's understandable really, and because he kind of still deserved it anyway, because he said all these mean things. Did you hear this? Did you hear this? Yeah, maybe I mocked his death. But also I'm kind of sorry, but also look, all these things he said, all these mean things. Therefore, I don't really give a shit about what he said. That's not the point. I don't care. I don't care if someone's expressing opinions that I fucking hate and think are awful and disgusting. I'm still not, celebrating if they get, But George wants us to applaud him for his, how humble, oh, he's so wonderful, his self-reflection, his amazing self-reflection. Maybe fucking self-reflect. And then you'll get given your applause for actually self-reflecting, rather than this, whatever the fuck this is. To go, yeah, but he did it worse. The guy who got shot did it worse. Yeah, but he's got shot now, George. So really, you're still doing that childish finger pointing? I don't know, I think he got the worst end of the fucking deal there, so I don't really care about you now bitching and moaning and complaining about how unfair it is. Is it unfair? Because I think it was more unfair on the guy that's not fucking here anymore. It's just so... I just the gall of it. To be like, the difference is I had the humility to recognise when I was wrong, and I'm just so much better than him. So, the difference is that why don't you having go at him, the guy who died? He's not been punished enough for his horrible opinions. I don't know why he's coming after me. Why not go after because maybe he's probably suffered enough for opinions that people didn't like of his, George. Maybe that's why. Oh my God. And you're damn right you're not perfect. Look, I was just particularly horrified by this comment from George. I know I'm really hammering at him because, sorry, you've been elected head or whatever of the Oxford Union. You should know better. So you deserve public criticism for that. But also, I'm particularly horrified by this because George met him. You met the guy. You spoke. And the fact he's complaining that it's not fair, that people are not they they're not listening to me they're not listening to me when I said sorry, and then I self-reflected so beautifully, and they're not, because this is a bullshit apology. Because you're still justifying it. You're still justifying what happened to him by going, yeah, but he said these things. I don't really care if it's not fair about people reporting what you said and you think it was unfairly handled by the media. Because you know what else I think isn't fair is being murdered for your opinions, but you didn't seem to have a huge problem with that. So forgive me if I don't give a solitary fuck when you're now the one asking for fairness after demonstrating none. Or for people to not, attack you after celebrating a guy being killed. And I agree, people should not be sending you threats. I agree with that. I just want to make it clear. I do not think people should not be sending George threats. They should not be, hurling abuse at him. What I am saying is, I think it's pretty fucking ridiculous that you're asking the public for sympathy on that when you showed none to someone else who was treated way worse. And expecting people to feel sorry for you when you had no empathy for a guy who was killed. I mean, now he's come out and, after all the backlash, I mean, still, been like, oh, Charlie Kirk was still evil, so therefore, clearly doesn't seem to feel that bad. But he did, apologise and then say, oh, I feel terrible for his family and stuff. So that's good. Step in the right direction, George. That's good you said that. But it ruins the strength of that when, after your supposed apology and you're saying you feel terrible for his family and you're thinking of them and it was a horrible thing that happened, after you celebrated, then you say that, okay, that's good. But then when you come out and still are coming out and saying, well, the guy said all of these things, because then it sounds like you're still justifying it, is how it sounds. Again, head of a debating society. That was someone that you debated, that you met, that you debated. I just can't believe that you could be, that your whole thing could be debate, that you could be in a debating society and celebrate when someone who had opposing opinions to you that you debated is killed. Like, how does that, you're talking about inconsistent principles, George. How does that marry with your principles of debating? We'll move on from this now. I'm sorry. It made me really angry because it's just pathetic. It's just pathetic is what it is more than anything. Like, what the fuck are you doing at a university if you can't cope with a difference of opinion so much that you want them dead? Grow a pair. You're absolutely pathetic. It's so weak. And the thing, in terms of differing opinions and stuff, I've met many people that I disagreed with. Some quite vehemently. Some, hugely. And what I've discovered is most people believe what they believe, not because they're horrible and evil. Some of them, yeah. Most people believe what they believe because they genuinely think it is in the best interest. They genuinely think it's the right thing. Someone I met someone years ago who believed that women shouldn't work. Now, I can't state how much I disagree with this opinion. I really disagree with this opinion. We argued about it. But we could also talk respectfully about it. And with him specifically, it became clear that it came from a place of... It didn't come from a place of hatred. Did I think his beliefs were outdated and dumb? Yeah. And I told him that. But I don't think he hated women. I don't think he was hateful. I think in his worldview, how he saw the world, what he believed it was in the best interest of everyone. And opinions aside, I liked him. I thought he was a good and generous person. He was a genuinely, good person, I think. And even though we disagreed so strongly, there was enough humanity there that both of us had that enabled us to talk and get on. A shared humanity that is bigger than our opinions. And maybe, the thing with, difference of opinions is opinions... It's so dumb for so many reasons to want to kill someone for their opinions. I mean, firstly, because it just is. But opinions are also fleeting. How do you know that someone's going to believe something all their life? Opinions are not a permanent part of someone. Maybe one day that, guy I met will change his mind on women. And maybe he won't. But if you kill him, you kill his potential. You kill any chance to grow or change. Or even just go on living, believing what he does with a different opinion to yours. And that's fine. Or even, if you want to think the opinion's so dreadful that you want to stamp it out and argue it and scream about it. And, that's fine too. You can do that. You can spend your whole life arguing against people with those opinions and disproving them. But what you don't do is you don't kill them. And I've also seen people argue, I saw this a lot, which I have to say because I think it's very unfair. People saying about the Charlie Kirk killing that they had the kind of very, what's the word for it? Facetious, kind of trivial, insulting just response, which was, live by the sword, die by the sword. I saw that commented quite a few times, as if to say, he brought it on himself, is the subtext there. Live by the sword, die by the sword. So, because I think this was about his stance on, like, gun control and everything. So I'm not American. Guns and gun control is not really a conversation that I hugely care about, because it's not a thing. It's not a thing where I am. But even I know that that's a reductionist argument to say that live by the sword, die by the sword. It sounds cool, but a better comparison would be if he was going around causing violence on people, and if he was going around, shooting people. If Charlie Kirk was doing that, then it would be appropriate to be like, oh, live by the sword, die by the sword. Then I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense if he's going around, like, shooting people. But he wasn't. He was expressing his opinions. His sword wasn't guns, it was conversation. What are you talking about? That doesn't even make sense. And again, you can hate his conversation, you can hate his opinions, but to suggest that he brought this on himself by, like, as if him talking is the same as someone shooting him. He didn't engage in violence, so that argument doesn't make sense. I thought we were against victim blaming, or is it only for people that we like? And again, like, oh my god, I'm not part of the whole gun control conversation. Again, it's not really my thing. It's not a topic that I know a lot about or I'm particularly interested in, because again, not American. But even I know there's a difference between, like, talking about having conversations about, wanting guns or more guns or whatever, and then someone shooting you for talking about that. Like, that it's not the same thing. But I think, this is when you realise that people don't have principles, they have teams, and they want their team to win. And I also want to say as well, because my friend who I mentioned, who messaged me a few days ago about all the people she knows celebrating. So it's like, it's not just like these random fringe people on the internet. Most of people, her friends, her real life friends that she knows in real life, are celebrating. She also said that she saw, like, people, her friends and other people, sharing clips of Charlie Kirk saying some, in her words, horrible things. She said, like they thought that, it would change her mind, or change the mind of people who think it's terrible to celebrate his death. Her point being, you could be posting clips of him saying the craziest, most awful things, and it's still not going to change her mind, or my mind, that he deserved to die. Because again, words are not actions, words are not violence. So you can post whatever you like of him saying anything. It makes no difference to the fact that he did not deserve to be shot and killed. Unless he's, like, doing, like, violent things, it's not going to make people who didn't want him to die to change their mind. And I think, if you don't disagree with that, if your response to that is, yeah, but he said this, like, he said this, people saying you shouldn't celebrate his death, and they go, yeah, but he said this thing, or he said this, and he was being mean, and he did this. Like, if that's what you really believe, then just come out and admit, just come out and say that we should shoot people in the street for saying things we think are hurtful. Because that is what you're making a justification for, at the end of the day. I don't care what he said. I really don't. We don't meet words with violence. And he wasn't violent. And just to be clear again, I'm not against capital punishment, actually, as a concept. There are things that I think it's acceptable that, where I wouldn't feel bad for someone being capitally punished, let's say. There are things, but those things are pretty extreme, and they involve, like hurting kids, for example. Stuff like that. Cold-blooded murder. Things like that. Actions. Not words. Actions. Heinous things people do. Yeah, I can understand that. People, not being bothered about someone disappearing for doing stuff like that. Expressing your opinions and debating college kids doesn't even come close to that. And if you're disappointed in me for this opinion, or feel that I'm too right-wing for condemning a politically motivated killing, I will be so okay without you here. That's fine. And I also want to address this point, because I've seen some people say that, conservatives suddenly care about gun violence now. Now it's about Charlie Kirk, and asking why, saying, oh, there was a school shooting the same day as Charlie Kirk, and conservatives don't care about that. No one cares about that. Why is it all about Charlie Kirk? So, one, I'm not conservative. I don't like team sports. I think when you get into defining yourself too much with one side or another, you get into tribalism, and I've seen it on both sides, and I have opinions that, some are left wing, some are more conservative, and it's what I think is right, and regardless of teams. So I'm saying this not as a conservative, So I'm not conservative. I don't consider myself a conservative. I can't speak for why conservatives then are talking about Charlie Kirk being shot and not the school shooting. But I can answer it for why I'm choosing to speak about this. Though again, I'm not conservative. I'm not coming at this from the perspective of gun violence, and I don't think most people are. That's the thing. I think maybe that's the disconnect. Some people are seeing it as a gun violence issue, and then are like, why is people only talking about this now when it comes to Charlie Kirk? Because some people are seeing it as a gun violence issue, and other people are seeing it as a free speech issue. I don't see this as a gun violence issue. Like I said, I'm not particularly up to date or interested in the gun violence issue. That might sound harsh, but it's just not like a thing in my reality. It's, you know, it's an American thing. So for me, it's not, I don't think that, it's not that people care more about Charlie Kirk than they do about kids being killed. I think it's not that at all. I think it's a bit disingenuous to suggest that. It's that this is a politically motivated killing that is being celebrated by some people on the left. Even some on mainstream media. That's why. Because it's not, you know, he could have been taken out anyway, not in any fashion, not just by a gun. So it becomes about the fact that people are celebrating it. It becomes about the fact that it was clearly politically motivated and that people are celebrating it. I also saw some people say there was like loads of fake screenshots going around saying that the guy who killed him was a Trump supporter. As far as I'm aware, that's not true at all. That seems to be something that people just like made up. So, yeah. So anyway, it's not that people care more about Charlie Kirk than they do about kids being killed. Like I said, it's that this is a politically motivated killing that's being celebrated by some on the left, even some in mainstream media. It's the fact that he's being blamed. Either being outright blamed for being killed, or else there's kind of this insidious, snide, disgusting, like, what did he expect attitude. I don't know. I don't know what he expected, but he might have expected that living in a free country, he wouldn't be shot for expressing his opinions. He might have expected that, and I don't think that's too much to expect. I mean, if you have a kind of what did he expect attitude and aren't wholeheartedly condemning this and are horrified, no matter what you thought of the man, you're part of the problem. And it's not helping. It's not helping your side. It's not helping the other side. Oh my God, it's doing so much more harm than good. And I saw as well, because after Jeremy Clarkson, I think Jeremy Clarkson tweeted or posted or something saying that he'd never been scared to be a newspaper columnist or express his opinions before now, but now he is. There was some idiot in the comments who just like responded to him, been like, don't say hateful things then. Excuse me? You can hate Jeremy Clarkson all you want. I don't care. You don't have to like what Jeremy Clarkson says. You can even say whatever Jeremy Clarkson says is hateful. But implying in that response, when you say, oh, just don't say hateful things then, you're implying when you say that it would be okay to kill him, or at the very least that he would deserve it if he died. Sorry, do you want people that like a free society and discussion and conversation or not? Are you a totalitarian or not? Because it sounds like to me like you're a totalitarian. That's what I'm hearing. It sounds to me like you're an authoritarian, totalitarian who doesn't give a shit if people who disagree with them are killed for their opinions. The point of free speech is you defend the free speech. It doesn't mean anything if you defend the free speech of people you agree with. That doesn't mean anything. How to know if someone really cares about free speech, and I really care about free speech, is if they defend the right of people to say their opinions, even if they disagree with them, even if they hate them. What's that quote? I can't remember it, but that, you know, I might not like what you'll have to say, but I'll defend to the end your right to say it. That's just got to be the foundation of a fucking functional liberal society. Jesus. But like, yeah, seriously, is this where we are now? Express any unsavoury opinions and expect no sympathy if you're killed. You're so stupid if you're on the left and expressing that, like that thought, that opinion. Do you think if you set that precedent, it is only going to be contained to right-wingers? Do you think if you set that precedent, it is only going to be contained to right-wingers becoming targets? Do you think, are you stupid enough to think if you set that precedent, it will never come back on you or your side or people you support? Are you that dumb? You're like children playing with fire. I also think the words are violent statement also has the embedded belief that opinions are more important than actions for telling you who someone is. And I disagree. I disagree so strongly with that. I think actions are always more important. Treating opinions as worse than actions is a backwards worldview, in my opinion. I've met many people in the past whose opinions I've agreed with, and as people, they're terrible and horrible. And I've met people whose opinions I disagree with, and they're good, generous, decent people. And I've also met, the same on either side. I've also met people who I disagree with who are terrible, and people I agree with who were great. And I'm not saying opinions don't matter at all. They do matter. But they are not as important as your actions, I don't think, for telling you who someone is. For telling you who someone is. And I think when something like this happens so close together, so there was also the murder of the Ukrainian refugee, the woman on the train, Irina. I don't know how her name's pronounced, but when it seems like it's the same people making excuses for the man who unprovoked, just killed her. Unprovoked. When it seems like the same people making excuses for that man and talking about mental health and homelessness and what was he going through, which I did see some people saying, when it seems like they're the same people who are justifying Charlie Kirk being shot for opinions they didn't like, that sums it up for me, this thing of the backwards worldview of opinions, them thinking opinions are more harmful than actions, or more important than actions. Because that was actually violent, the man who murdered Irina. That was heinous and terrible. Actions always tell you more about someone than their opinions, and to get to this level where you think someone should be killed for their opinions, what they say, not what they do, is so sad and so dangerous as well. But that's what I mean. I think, that's how that worldview then comes out, in thinking that your opinions say more about who you are than your actions do. So, a loving 31-year-old father of two, because you didn't like some of his opinions, you celebrate his death and think he deserved it. Meanwhile, an insane madman who, in cold blood, just killed this innocent young woman who did nothing to him, out of nowhere. Somehow he's the one who gets justifications and, but his mental health, but he was suffering. Sorry, I didn't really give a shit about the mental health of someone who just killed a 23-year-old girl out of fucking nowhere. That's so backwards. It's so backwards to make justifications for one and, want mercy for him. Personally, I don't feel much feelings of mercy or anything towards that guy who did that to that poor girl. But then have no empathy or mercy towards a family man because he said things you didn't like. That's crazy. I don't know. And of course, it's not going to be all the same people. Not everyone's going to, who's celebrating Kirk's death are going to have been defending the guy who killed Irina. But if you are doing that, defending that guy and condemning Charlie Kirk, you're nuts. I don't celebrate the death of a loving father, no matter his opinions, which is what he clearly was, I think. I think he was clearly a loving father. I'm so sad for his children. It really is terribly, terribly sad. It's terribly sad. If you're celebrating his death, not only are you either so childish and out of touch with reality that you don't understand the gravity of it, or are just plain deplorable, but you're also stupid. This will not help the left. It won't help anyone. And, I'll just end this video by saying that my heart hurts for Erica, his wife, his widow. She has 2 young kids. She just started married life and thought she had years ahead of her with her husband. It's horrible. And, sources have reported that his kids were there. I even heard, I don't know if this is true, but I heard some sources say, reporting that his little girl was scared by the shot and ran towards her father for safety, the father who is now dead. I don't know if that's true. But multiple sources reported that they were there. And that's horrible. She's 3 or 4. How can you celebrate, no matter how much you didn't like the man, the trauma of this little kid who doesn't have a dad now, who was there as her, like, do you understand? It just affects so many lives. Do you understand? Like, what has she done? This innocent little girl, who for the rest of her life, how is that trauma not going to affect her for the rest of her life? It's like watching children not understanding the gravity of the situation when they're cheering and celebrating his death. It's like you don't understand the consequences of what you're cheering on. I've got to believe that, because otherwise you're just so despicable. It's not even comprehensible. His kids will not have a dad. Like, the trauma that creates, losing a parent so brutally at such a young age. And again, they clearly adored him. You don't have to like the man to have seen all those clips of him and his kids. Like, it's not funny, it's not good, it's just sad. They've been robbed of so many years. They've been robbed of having him there at life milestones, of knowing their dad. It's so sad. It's so sad. And I watched Erica Kirk's, her speech that she gave after she became a widow. And it just made me very sad. It made me very sad for her. And if you can't sympathise with a grieving widow of 2 young children because she's a Conservative, just admit that you don't see people as people anymore, and you can only see who they vote for. Because that's fucking sad, man. That's just... It's so sad that, you know, a young family, that they don't have a dad. She doesn't have a husband. They thought they had a whole lifetime of happiness. And I think you've got to be such a disgusting, bitter person to see that, even if you don't like him, you don't have to like him, even if you don't like him, even if you don't agree with what he said, to see that and the trauma and horror that's created. And, you know, a family that thought they had a lifetime together. I don't know how you can celebrate it. I don't care how much you hated Charlie Kirk. I don't know how you can celebrate it. You don't have to have agreed with him to think this is awful. In fact, if you didn't agree with him, I think it's even more important you condemn this. Anyway, this is a sad video. It's sad. I don't know what else to say. I don't know what to end this on, other than I just want to reiterate that again. Words aren't violence, and people have got to stop saying it, because it's not, like, the consequences of that ideology are just disastrous. And it's not funny. It's not a game. Violence is violence. That's it. That's the end of it. Words aren't violence. Well, you can hate words. You can think opinions are disgusting and deplorable, but they're not violence. And no one really believes that, because like I said, what would you rather? Someone saying some horrible words to you that might make you cry and upset, or you or a family member being shot in the fucking neck? Don't give me that words are violence. It's not the same. And this is what happens when people make those kind of statements that aren't true. You end up justifying this. Anyway, that's it. That's, the end of the video. This is a tragedy, and it's not good. It's not good for discourse, for conversation, for people to discuss ideas and change their minds. You lose people. You lose people by doing this and celebrating this. I wish for as much healing and peace for his family as is possible right now, especially his kids. Awful. It's a horrible thing. May he rest in peace, and everyone else look after yourselves.